Hey, welcome back to Love It or Hate It, Just Rated in the comments. I'm back because I had to give you episode 2. And as I was watching it again, I noticed that I gave you guys a sneak peek of episode 2 for sure, and I didn't give you some significant information in episode 1. Okay, so episode 1, you also have another Supe, Starlight. And she's brand new. Her mother's been working her since she was a child, trying to get her ready to be a part of the 7. Okay, getting her ready to be a part of the 7. And so the day comes, she auditions for the 7, and they call her back, and she made it. She's in the 7 now. She's like a super good girl. Like, Starlight is a super good girl, and she only does nice, sweet things, whatever. She's wholesome. Okay, bottom line, she's wholesome, which is not bad. It's a good thing. So anyways, so she's a part of the 7, right? So she got the call back, and so she's there, and she's walking through, and then so she sees the Deep, in the conference room. And the Deep says to her, she said that he said to her, you know what? You probably had a poster of Homelander on your wall when you were younger. She's like, actually, I had a poster of you. Okay, and, so she's looking all shy and everything, and then she looks up. His pants are down. They're down. And he's laughing like, oh, well, since you had a crush on me, come on, let's get it together, all this kind of stuff. Basically, she had to give him head. He told her if she didn't do it, she was going to get kicked out of the 7, and he would just let everybody know that she was just awful. Bottom line, he was going to get her kicked out of the 7 if she did not give him oral sex, okay? So I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is it. Again, the Deep is a hero, okay? He's one of the Supes. All of them are corrupt. I mean, corrupt to the 25th power. Okay, so that's the part that I left out in episode 1, okay? It's another part too. So there's a congressman in Baltimore, right? So the Baltimore congressman comes to Madeline Stillwell. Madeline Stillwell is actually the woman who is in charge of all the Supes, but she also makes all the deals, okay? She's the closer. So she makes the deals with Congress. She makes the deals, with the president, with everybody. She's the deal maker, right? So what happens is she has a meeting with the Baltimore congressman. And so the Baltimore congressman, the crime is really high, and she wanted to give him Nubian Prince for like $4 million. Okay, she wanted to give him for $4 million to protect the city. And so the congressman is like, no, but I'll take him for $200 million. This is what he says to Madeline Stillwell. And she's like, $200 million? Oh, no. It's $400 million. And I have Atlanta waiting in the wings. So if you're not going to take him, then Atlanta does. Now, also, if you think about this too, she also says, she gives the breakdown. Like, Nubian Prince or Nubian King, he, she said he polls really well, even with the whites and all this kind of stuff. It's really interesting, this show. So anyways, he goes on to tell her he'll take him for $200 million. And the reason he will take him for $200 million is because he knows about Compound V. So, what is Compound V? Well, the story is that these Supes are not made, they're born. Okay, all these were from birth. Everyone has had these superpowers. Well, Compound V tells that story a little differently. Compound V is what actually gives them their superpowers. So, in fact, those Supes are not born, they are made from birth. Okay, so the congressman knew about it. How? I don't know, and Madeline didn't know either. But then she ended up making the deal with him. So he got the Nubian Prince for $200 million, right? Now, all the while all this is going on, Homelander, the head of the 7, he's actually listening to the conversation in there. He can see through walls, he can hear through walls, everything. So he's listening to the conversation, he's watching it. And so what he does is the congressman is on the airplane with his son, and they're headed back to Baltimore. And so his son is, he's by the window, he has a window seat. And he's like, Dad, look, it's your friend, Homelander. And he's like waving and stuff, right? Homelander lights those eyes up so red, and he burns that plane up. Like, zzz, 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 they go down, everybody's dead. dead like a doorknob. So that was in episode 1. Okay, so now let's fast forward to episode 2. Okay, because I did leave that out from episode 1. So now we're in episode 2, and there again, they went to Frenchie's. They finally blew up what's his name, Translucent. They killed Translucent, but Translucent did get a little bit scared, and he started giving up a little bit of information once he realized they knew what they were talking about. So Translucent did tell them that he knew where A-Train was going when he ran through Robin, or actually coming from. A-Train was coming from his girlfriend's house, which is Popclaw. She used to be in the 7, but, you know, she was addicted to, I think, Compound V. And so she ended up getting kicked out of the 7, right? But A-Train was leaving her house, and he was hopped up on that Compound V, bottom line. And so it had him going so fast, he ran through the girl, okay? So that's what Translucent shared with the boys, right? So, okay, that's where we're at there. And that was just before Huey blew him up. And actually, Frenchie is the one who figured out how to blow him up. It wasn't Huey. So, my bad. But anyways, yeah, so, now, Homelander is getting really worried, like, where the fuck is Translucent, okay? So he goes down to, because they have this big old tech squad, because all the superheroes have trackers in them, right? So he's like, where is Translucent? And the girl's like, well, maybe I should call Mrs. Stillwell. And he's like, no, you're not going to call Mrs. Stillwell because I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. Okay, the F word is the word of choice here, okay? So she's like, okay. So she finds out where he is, right? And, you know, he's flying there. Now, what happened? The boys figure out that Homelander is onto them because they saw him flying. So Frenchie called his girl up. She's always reliable. So he calls her up, and he lets her know, like, you know, you need to blow this up over here. You need to leave, because they needed to distract him because it's within the same area. But Homelander didn't know exactly where Translucent was. So she blew up another building, and Homelander went there. But he was looking at the van, trying to see through it and see what he could find. And he didn't see anything. But when he heard that explosion, he went to the other direction. So that did help them. And so they dumped Translucent's, you know, pieces and all that kind of stuff in the bottom of the ocean, right? So that was part 2, right? Now, the additional portion that happened was Homelander goes to Madeline Stillwell's office, right? And so she says to him, she says, you know, the Deep told me, and only me, that when he went to go find out what happened with the congressman's plane, he saw something that looked like 2 little laser eyes that shot the engine or killed the engine, whatever it may be, shot the plane down. And he says to her, say what you mean to say, Madeline. Say what you mean to say. Like, keep it real. Don't beat around the bush. Keep it all the way real, because I'm Homelander. I'm the most corrupt, okay? So anyways, and then so she goes in and she tells him, you know, your brand is wholesome. It's baseball. It's babies. It's not revenge, you know? And he's like, how does he even know about Compound V, you know? And she didn't know. She couldn't tell him. But bottom line is, you know, then she tells him, did you think about the timing of it? Okay, because she's corrupt too. Corrupt queen. She's like, you know, I have half of the Senate's Appropriation Committee that I have to meet with today. So, you know. So then she starts stroking his ego and stroking him. And that's that. Now, meanwhile, let's go back to Starlight, okay? So Starlight is in irregular clothes because they supposedly have these disguises, you know, like how Superman is Clark Kent. They look exactly the same. They don't even have any masks. At least Starlight doesn't. So her secret identity, she was going out in public and she was just her regular self. She was Annie, okay? And so she hears some guys, like, you know, trying to harass this woman, like trying to rape her basically two dudes trying to rape this girl, two frat boys. And so she stops him and she tells the girl, she's like, you know what? Close your eyes for a second. And so she closes her eyes and she beats the guys down. She beats them down, okay? And it was really good, right? It was cool. Like, she felt good. She did something good. Starlight is the only one who's not corrupt, okay? Literally, she's the only Supe that's not corrupt. So, she comes back to the office, and then Stillwell's assistant, she comes in. She's like, what the fuck, Starlight? Okay, and I'm like, oh my God. And Starlight's looking like, well, what is wrong with her? And so she's like, you know, they caught you on camera and you're beating these guys up and they're saying you just came along and kicked their ass. There was no girl. She was like, no girl came forward. And, you know, she's livid. She's heated like a firecracker, okay? So then Starlight's telling her, yeah, there was a girl. You know, they were raping a girl. It was like date rape or something like that. That's what she said. So what happens? She's like, well, isn't it innocent until proven guilty? This is what Starlight says to Stillwell's assistant. She's like, no, when you're in the big leagues, you flip it. Jerry's gonna lose his shit. Okay, that's what happens, right? So funny. So then, you know, she goes to meet Stillwell, and then the assistant is there, and two guys are there, or whatever. And so by the time she gets upstairs, she lets them know, or they let her know, the girl came forward. It's all wonderful. It's good. Blah, blah, blah. And then they unveil this new costume for her or whatever, right? Because the one she has is cool. It's wholesome. You know, it covers her body up. But this new one is super sexy. And so Stillwell basically tells her, like, you know, we want you to wear this. And she's like, oh, you know, no, that's not my style. And no. And so Stillwell says, you know what? Well, you can continue to wear what you want to wear, but you won't be wearing it in the 7. Okay? Now, she's much more smooth with it. But yeah, that's basically what she said. Okay? So that was episode 2. Next up, we will have episode 3 tomorrow. So, love it, hate it, just rate it in the comments. In the comments. Yeah, I did sing that last part. Anyways, see you tomorrow. Bye.